Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, and sorry it's been a while since I did an update on my garden here, and so this is what I'm going to do, just show you real quick what is going on. And it is August right now, so it's right in the heat of the summer, although we've been having a very mild summer, and I thank God for that. It hasn't reached the 90s. It's only been like the most it's reached maybe 89, 90. So we're very thankful for that because we don't have any AC, and it gets really, really hot here and humid. And so anyway, let's get on with what's going on in my garden. Okay, so I guess I'll start right here. If you remember in the past, I've had tomato plant in here and a tomato plant right there, which I need to just pull out. I might as well just pull it out of the ground. And this one I already pulled out, and because they really were not producing, and it was just getting really hot, and it wasn't doing well at all. It was withering and it was just dying. But here is the sea grape tree that I've got in this pot. I don't think I took it out yet. The last time I did an update, I still had the avocado tree in with this sea grape tree, and so now they are in their separate pots, and it is going slow. I just need to get it in a bigger pot and feed it some more, and so it's living. And over here I've got the sweet potato. So I obviously upgraded the pot, or it's just slightly bigger than the other pot. I don't really have anything bigger than this. So but it's not doing well. At least it doesn't look like it's doing all that great. The leaves are not very green, except for the few new growth here, and then a new growth over here. You see it's a little bit more green, and it just doesn't look like it's doing very well. But I'm sure it is producing underneath, and I just need to give it some more. I just need to give it some more water, really. But it's vining. It's vining all the way over there, and it's all kind of mixed in with the weeds around here. I haven't really done any weeding right around this pot much, but I actually had another pot that from the leftover, that same pot that I harvested the sweet potatoes in last time. They started growing again in that pot because I didn't really totally clear it out of all the roots, and so it started growing, and I just kind of let it grow, and I thought maybe I could just use it for eat the greens, but the greens didn't do so well, and I just never ended up using them, and they started to kind of get like this. So they didn't look very appetizing, and so I started to just kind of pull it out, and there were little baby sweet potatoes, like about this size, about like this size, and some were actually a little bit big, a little bit longer, and so I'm that was producing, and that I didn't even have that much soil in it, and I barely fed it, and it just got some water from the rain, and it actually produced some sweet potatoes, really tiny, and I didn't really do anything with them. So I'm assuming, this definitely should have some sweet potatoes underneath. And I'm thinking I'm going to wait maybe wait until about September, October and dig them up and see. And then over here, if you remember this pot, which is the yellow pear tomatoes, it used to be over there on the other side next to the other tomatoes that were in the ground. And as you can see, this one is pretty much at the end of its life. It still has some blossoms, and I really hadn't been. I just figured I'll just leave it, and when I get to it, I was just gonna take it out of this pot and just compost it. But as you can see here, at the very tip of this one, it still had blossoms. It was still producing blossoms, but I wasn't getting any fruit. And I tried moving this pot, and that's why it's here, moving it here into the shade. Because I've read that in the blossoms really they do well when it's not so hot in the morning. The flowers open in the morning, and that's usually when they get pollinated and they set fruit. And so I thought maybe if I put it over here in the shade where it doesn't get so hot in the morning times, that it would actually set some fruit. But I guess the heat is just too much for it. And so a lot of this, it really grew. There's still a lot of branches that still had blossoms at the very end, at the very tip of them. It was still, I think this one is pretty much dried out because I haven't watered it, because I decided, it was pretty much done. But let me see. You see right here, the very tip, they were still growing, and they were still setting lots of flowers. But So I guess the heat just, even unless I really had in a really, really good shady spot where it was shady all morning, but I couldn't really find a spot that I could put this in where it was shady for the good part of the morning. And so that's pretty much the end of the yellow pear tomatoes. But I got a really good harvest out of that one. And so I'll have to just replant, plant some more, maybe in a few months. September or October I'll try to plant again. And here I have the avocado tree, one of the two that I grew from seed. And this one's actually, these are I think about a year old, because I planted these last year, right at the beginning of summer. And this one is doing really well. You see this branch started growing all the way down here. And this one's doing much, much better than the other avocado tree, which was the avocado tree that was in with the sea grape. And so now it is in its separate pot right here. And as you can see, this one, if you can see how this one is, it's just got these two branches, and it's a lot smaller, and it's definitely shorter, and it's not as many leaves and branches as the other one, which is this one. So that one's much fuller, and it's probably because this one was in with another pot. So, but it's doing a lot better now, and that's same thing. It's about a year old. I planted at the beginning of summer last year by seed. And let me just go over here real quick, is the lemongrass. As you can see, it is really big and bushy. It is just about like maybe 6 inches or 6 more inches than it'd be my height, and I'm 5'3". So this is pretty tall. And it's actually, it definitely is doing a lot better than it was. It's a lot greener now. If you had seen it maybe a few weeks ago, it was kind of yellow, and a lot of it was browning. And I had plucked up some, I had pulled out some of these stalks to use. For tea, I was actually making trying out mosquito repellent. And I actually am going to talk about that in another video, where I'm going to talk specifically about what you can do with lemongrass, all the different ways to use this. And so I need to pull some of these stalks out, and because this pot is just too small for it, and it's not doing as well as it should. And I'm going to show you here too. So I pulled some out, and then I also cut this one branch. You see where my finger is pointing? And you see this stalk, which is, this one is kind of brown. You see that? This is the new growth that came from this one that I cut off of this one stalk, and it was green, but it started to, I don't know why, but it's starting to brown, and there's still this leaf right behind it, that's new growth, but that one's green. But the thing is though, if you see how short this is the height of it right here. That's as far as it's grown. And it's been about, I think, 2 months now since I cut this stalk. And so by this being really slow growth, something is up with it's up with the pot, I guess. Obviously the pot, it's just too small for it. And just so many stalks of lemongrass in here, and it obviously was showing signs of stress by it turning yellow. But now guess what? The reason why it's green is because, watch, I can't lift this pot up. The roots have grown through the holes, the drain holes down here, and it's grown into the ground. So I've just left it, and that's why it has been turning green. It is so it's obviously doing much better. And but I still need to repot this once I figure out and organize the remaining empty pots that are not in use. I will make use of it and put this in a new pot, and also take some, harvest some of these stalks, use them, and then replant the stalks in another pot. And so I'll do another video all about lemongrass. And I forgot too, this one pot, which I probably may use this pot for the lemongrass right here. Now, if you remember in my previous video, I had marigold planted in here, because this originally had a tomato plant that got sick from infected with root knot nematodes. So I got rid of that tomato plant and put in marigold, because because marigold is supposed to help with getting rid of the root knot nematodes. And you can watch my video when I talked about that. And it grew for about, I think, it didn't reach quite 6 months, about maybe 4 or 5 months. And I don't know why, but it started to die and it just started to dry up, and it completely just died. And I really miss it because it was just really pretty too. The flowers were really pretty. They're bright yellow, and I don't know what happened. I thought marigolds were pretty simple to grow, but obviously I still got a lot to learn, and so I'm not quite sure what it was that happened that caused it to completely die like that. But anyway, so that's what was in that pot right there. And here we have the what is it? Oh, mango. I don't know what variety it is, because I had I had a seed that was from what they call here mangolas. I think the actual variety name of that one I think it was called the Hayden variety. I'm not sure, but it's the kind that's purple, that has like a purplish tinge to it, and really, really sweet, and they're not what they call hairy, meaning like there's no there's no like the fibers, they don't get that get stuck in your teeth. It wasn't that kind. So I had that seed, and I had the other kind, which were the hairy ones, which they were given to us by a friend. She called them peach mangoes. And so I had those two different seeds, and I had I think several mango saplings that popped up, but I don't know which variety. I didn't keep track of that real well. So this is the only one that's left. And if you can see, if I can compare side by side, it's just about as tall as the lemongrass. So that's how tall, and it's, if I remember, I think I've shown it briefly in my other videos, it was about this tall. So that's how much it's grown since my last video. And I'm gonna, once it grows a new set of leaves, I'm gonna tip it. And if you want to learn more about, it's a certain way of pruning them, there's plenty of videos that talk about that. So maybe I'll link up the one that I watched that I really learned a lot from on pruning them. A way to keep them small, manageable, and easy to grab, to harvest the fruit that comes from them. When you keep them nice and small and manageable, that even though that you won't get as many fruit if you let it grow wild and grow as tall as it can get, but you can get really quality, big sized fruit because of the pruning. And plus then you can also have more than one within a small space. So anyway, I'm not going to go into that, and I'll link up the video where you can learn, if you wanted to, learn more about pruning mangoes and how you can really maximize your space and getting good quality mango fruit from it. So, and let's see, what else is there? Oh, I've got plenty of scallions, or green onions, or Egyptian walking onions, which these are actually, because I don't have any on right now, but when they start flowering, they grow really tall and they flower, and then it grows little bulbs of green onions on top of that stalk. And then when it gets really heavy, it kind of bends over, and then wherever it lands, it usually, if it lands in the ground, then it'll just the bulbs that are on top of that end up touching the ground, and then they sprout up, and they basically take root into the ground right where they land, and they grow new ones. And so it's kind of like they call it Egyptian walking onions, because of the way it reproduces. It grows tall, it falls down, and then grows new ones, and if it does it again, then it grows up, falls down, and grows new ones. And that's how they call them Egyptian walking onions. And that's what these are, because that's how they actually, this one actually, I don't get any seeds from them. I thought I would get some seeds. When I saw the flowers, I was like looking for the seeds, and I'm trying to figure out, where are the seeds? And all of a sudden I started noticing these little bulbs. And so I realized that these were Egyptian walking onions. And so I got this whole pot. It's a lot sparser now, because I harvested a lot. And I have another one in here. That's a soda bottle that I have it growing in right here. This right here is another pot. And I have a small pot here that I use from a mushroom container. I need to actually transplant these. They don't do as well in these small containers. And then I have this whole big old pot right here, and I think this is a 3-gallon pot. And so I got a whole bunch in this one, and I got another one in here, which I found is something that growing in here I don't really want, so I'm gonna pluck it out, get it out now since I see it. And I need to transplant this one as well. I need to transplant these into one of these root pouches, which I will have to make a video on talking about these root pouches. I really love them. I got them last month, I think. I got a bunch. I got a pack of 25 of these, and they're really good. And then, so I got that. So I got, let's see, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, and then that big pot, and then the soda bottle, that's 4. Oh, then I got one more right here, 5. I have this one in the root pouch. This bunch of green onions, I had just transplanted this from the same kind of container as this one, the same size. And so let me see if I can show you. So this is, if I show you, let's see, if I put this about the same height as this root pouch, you can see how much, can you see how much taller? Let me see if I can put them side by side a little bit better here. These are a little bit shorter than these. So the ones in this root pouch are doing much better. These are doing much better now that I transplanted them from this kind of container. And so I will talk more about the root pouches. And as you can see from that, these are doing way better. And so these kind of pots are much, much better. And so that makes it 5 pots of these green onions, because I use a lot of green onions when I make what they call a, I can't remember the name now, it slipped my mind, the Korean name for green onion pancakes or scallion pancakes. But I use tons of these in just 1 or 2 of the Korean pancakes that I make with these, and they taste so good. And so I need to have a lot of these growing, and because when I make those, I pretty much, I think I could probably use up all these green onions to make about, I think I could probably get the most would be 4 pancakes, and I'm talking about maybe 12-inch size pancakes. So that's, obviously that's not too bad. They're, to have a 12-inch pancakes, they're pretty big. But I use up a lot of these, because a lot of these onions go in there. And let's see what else. Oh, and I have this. These are lemons. This is a lemon sapling or small lemon tree. These 2 came from 1 seed. So I ended up I moved it from the small pot that I had them in, and I moved it together since it came from the same seed, because it was still attached to the seed. So I just put this I just put it in together. And then I have another one right here. This one, for some reason, isn't doing as well as that other one I just showed you. And the pot size is about the same, but I'm not sure why this one isn't doing as well as the other one. And then over here I have rosemary and thyme. The thyme I got from the store. If you watched my container gardening tips video, I talked about these. I got these from the grocery store, and I just planted them because they weren't completely dry. So I planted them to see if they would grow, and they have been growing very well. If you can see from where right here, you see how this stalk goes this way and then it goes straight up. That's the growth from when I bought and planted the thyme. And that's about 2 inches growth, and it's been about 2-3 months, so it's kind of slow growing. And so is rosemary, is growing really, really slow. A friend of mine gave me the rosemary, and I'm waiting it for to grow well enough that I can start actually using them, because if I keep clipping them and using them now, it's going to be clipped to nothing. So I need to give it some more time to grow some more, and then also that I can propagate some more and cut a stalk and then plant in another pot for it to grow. And so that's what I want to do with that. And they smell so good, rosemary. And it smells, it tastes really good in lemonade. You should try it. Take a small sprig of it, cut a small sprig of it in a cup of lemonade, and try it. It tastes really, really good. Okay, and and over here was supposed to be chives, but I was not able to get any, as you can see, because there's nothing growing in this pot except this little thing. If you can see this, if I can zoom in a little, so you can see it. But this little thing, which I have no clue what it is, I don't think it's chives, because this leaf is coming out, and I don't think it would be chives, because chives are tall and thin little stalks, like, in the shape of a green onion, but this does not look like that kind of a shape. It looks like a regular leaf, so I have no clue what that is. So I'm going to wait and see what that is, but I do not know why the chives did not grow. I don't know if I really need to research and figure out, was there some special conditions that it needs to be in? Because when I sowed them directly into this pot, and I put them in the shade, so it wasn't totally in direct sun, because the sun is really hot. And so I don't know. I tried it twice and used up all the seeds. I need to get some more seeds, because I use chives and Chinese pot stickers, the pan-fried dumplings that I make. And there are some other things that I wanted to make. There's a Thai recipe that I actually saw using chives, and so I really would like to grow some chives so I can make that. Because chives, actually, it's hard to find here in Nassau, the Bahamas. They don't really, that's not something that's really commonly used here, so I don't really see it. And actually, if I do see them, it's usually the regular plain chives. It's supposed to be garlic chives, and so they're a little bit different. They're flat-leafed versus being hollow like the regular chives. And so I want the garlic chives, the flat-leaf kind, and they don't really have them. I've even looked in actually they do. And the very few Asian markets here that we've searched around all the Asian markets here, is one that actually has it, but they don't always have it. So, and then it's kind of a bit of a drive for us to go there to get it. So I want to grow my own, but I don't know. I'm going to have to try it again. And it's a learning curve for me. And if you have any tips on how to grow chives, please comment and let me know, because what's the special condition? Is it not supposed to be in the summertime or what? But I'm pretty sure I remember my mom growing them in the summertime when we were in New York, when I grew up in New York. In the summertime, that's when those grew. Everything my mom grew was in the summertime. So I got to research. But anyway, next, before I get to this, here I have what they call Barbados cherry or acerola cherry. That's the cherries, the kind of cherries, obviously not the kind of cherries that you think of in the States, not like the Bing cherries or anything like that, but they're called cherries here. And this one is it's very high in vitamin C from what I read. So I really want those. They're not really all that sweet, not to me anyway. I much prefer cherries, the sweetness like from Bing cherries. But just the fact that they're high in vitamin C, I want them. And then so I need to replant this, because this yogurt containers that I started the seedling in was definitely way too small for this thing. So I definitely gotta repot that. And then here, finally, I can say I've got mint. Look at that. For some reason, I'm surprised. It's actually really slow growing. I don't know, maybe once it's well established, it grows like crazy, but this growth has been, I think, 2 months just for me to get this much growth. And this is I think my third or fourth try of growing this, because all the other times I've tried growing them, it never reached this big of a size. And I mean, look at the size of this compared to my finger. It never reached this big. It would only get maybe to the second set of leaves, and then all of a sudden they start browning, dry up, and die. And then I don't know what was the issue. Maybe it might have been me putting it in it being in such a long time in the direct sun, because the summertime. So here, the sun just gets really hot from the very beginning of the morning. It started getting sun at 7:30 in the morning, and from then it just in the hot sun all day, even though I would water it. So I don't know. I'm pretty sure, I'm thinking it was that, because once I put it in the shade, so it would get sun in the very morning, maybe for just like 2 hours or 3 hours, and then for the rest of the time it's covered in shade. And look at this, and it's doing much, much better. And there's two of these, two little mint plants growing here, and they're actually on I think it's their third set of leaves now. So I'm very, very happy, because, and these are it's called lemon mint. So it's supposed to have a lemon flavor to them. So I'm excited to have that. And so I think, so that's really working well for me. I think that it needed to be in the shade for a good part of the day, because being it's so hot. And then if you remember from my previous video, I had cilantro growing in this pot. And now, if you know cilantro, that's not cilantro. I don't know what happened here. And here's another thing I got to learn, and really, trial and error kind of a thing here, that it's not working. It didn't work for me. I don't know what happened. I really don't. It was growing really well, and I've been keeping it in the shade because I know that cilantro is a cool season crop. And I've read that you can grow it in the summer, and you just got to snip the top off to prevent it from flowering, and then also kind of succession plant, meaning plant some seeds every 2 weeks. But anyway, for the ones that were established, they were growing really well, and they were starting to bolt, so I snipped the tops, and so it wouldn't flower. And then I don't know, at one point they just started dying off one by one. I think I had 3 or 4 cilantro plants in here, and each one of them just started to die off. And I'm not quite sure what exactly happened. I've been keeping it in the shade. I've been moving it, giving it some sun, and then when it got really hot, I'll make sure it was in a spot where it was in the shade during the hottest part of the day. So, and that's one of the things I love about container gardening is, I can adjust to the plant's needs, and I can move them around. But I don't know what happened to them, and I gotta try again. I still have some more seeds, and I'm gonna try again. And what grew, I have no clue what grew in its place. My kids have a hamster, and I've been composting the hamster bedding, and I remember putting some of that compost from that into this pot. So I bet you these are the seeds from the hamster's food. So I don't know what this is. So it's either millet or wheat, which I don't think it's wheat, because I don't think this looks like wheat at all. And I can't remember what else is in the hamster food, what kind of hamster food it was. But it was one of those other seed things, and I don't know what it was. So I will have to let it grow some more, and then hopefully I can figure out what this is. I just wanted to try out and see what it is. And then, okay, and then over here I've got what they call Surinam cherry. And I can't remember what the other names. There are other names for it besides Surinam cherry, but I can't remember. And I don't remember its scientific name either. If I remember to look it up, I'll post it in the description, just in case, for those of you that like to know the scientific names of things. And here is another Surinam cherry. So I've got, I think I had 6 seeds, because I wasn't sure if any of them would sprout, and so I planted all 6 seeds that I got from actually eating them from a Surinam cherry bush that we found in one of the neighborhoods that we like to walk in. And so I transplanted 2 of the seedlings out of this pot, and so this is the one that I transplanted. So if you can see, it's grown nice and tall. And then here's another one that I put in the root pouch here, a fabric pot, and this one is really, really tall. So I've got several of these Surinam cherry trees, bushes, whatever you want to call them. And then last, I think that's down to the last thing that I've got here, are more lemongrass. And I've got here one in one root pouch, and I've got another one in a root pouch. These were planted when I pulled out 2 of the stalks from the big pot right there. And so I use them. I use the leaves, and then I replanted the end of the stalk. And as you can see, I mean, this thing is just exploding in this root pouch. It's doing so well. Oops, sorry. And as you can see, this is the main stalk that I planted in here, and already had grown a baby one, a new one. So if you can, now this was from 2 months ago. If you remember when I talked about the stalk of lemongrass that I cut off of this plant, and you've seen, I think it only grew about an inch and a half, and you see that. Look at the difference between that one that was in the pot and these that are in these root pouch, these fabric pots, and look how tall it has gotten in 2 months. In 2 months' time, it's gotten huge versus that one little 2-inch growth in that pot. And this, I mean, look at this. You see how tall this thing is? And this one's already gone and grown a new one. And then this one has 2 new ones. Got a new one right here and a new one right here. And then actually I just noticed a third starting to grow. If you can, let me see if I can zoom in. If you can see that, I'm going to see if I can try to point it out. Right there. If you see that right by my fingernail, that little green thing sticking out right there, that is another new growth, a new stalk going to grow right there. So I mean, this is the third new stalk growing in this. And it is just amazing. Let me zoom back out here real quick. And so this is, I mean, the growth from this growing in this fabric pot is amazing. I mean, it just shows you how good these things are, what they call air pruning, because of these pots, versus growing in this pot. You know, of course, I'm sure there may be some other issues for the reason why that one little stalk only grew, I think, what is it, an inch and a half maybe at the most of that one, and it's starting to brown. So I mean, obviously this just shows a huge difference. But of course, obviously there are other factors because of the fact that this pot is kind of small. This pot is kind of small, and it's got so many stalks in here that it's just not growing well enough, even with me feeding it and stuff. And but it is doing a lot better now that the roots are growing into the ground here through the drain holes. So that's what I've got growing in the garden right now, and nothing really that I can say that I can harvest besides, the only thing I can really harvest are the green onions. Everything else is just going to take some time. Oh yeah, actually, sorry, I can harvest the lemongrass. So I got lemongrass I can harvest. I can harvest the green onions. The thyme and the rosemary, not really, because they're just so slow growing that I just really can't harvest them yet. I just maybe need to buy some more thyme from the store and just plant more of them, so then I can actually have a harvest of the thyme. And I think that's pretty much it. So there's really nothing that I can really harvest right now. I need to get organized and see what pots I have left and what I can grow. But other, and then I got this. Of course, it's not necessarily a vegetable, nothing I can really harvest. But this is moss rose. And I had it in a smaller pot, and then I repotted it because, as you can see, it's kind of scraggly looking, and so that's why I repotted it, and it's starting to grow more green leaves now. Okay, so that's pretty much it. That's what I've got going with this garden here, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. All right, so and comments. Give me a comment. Let me know how your growing season is going, what you've got going on in your garden, what you've been harvesting, and I would love to know, are you a beginner like me? Are you, learning? And are you doing container gardening, or are you doing in the ground gardening, or both? So love to hear some feedback, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. All right, bye-bye.